All right, well, welcome back to another Scars podcast with Matt Carter. Just getting to meet him through my buddy Jeff Moorfield.
Absolutely.
Excited to be back on here, chopping it up. And I think probably this, hands down, is the coolest beard that might ever come on the Scars podcast.
Bro, when I first met him, I said, this dude is like a GQ. Like, this guy should have like all the sponsorships in the world for any type of beards that's out there. Like, that's the way it came off. I was like, really? I'm meeting this guy? I don't even know if I'm worthy because I'm bald. I have no hair. So I don't know if I'm even allowed to even talk to you, Matt.
It is intimidating. it really is. It's like I got like the cool guy and man, can I even be in the same room with this guy with this thing on, man? Like, yeah. I mean, I've got this little thing here that kind of grows in and kind of doesn't, and I don't know. Tell us more about your beard. I mean,
and how do you shape it the way you do?
Literally,
man? like literally the color,
surgical
all the style, man.
You know, it's funny. You do 24 years on the fire department, like no facial hair. I had the cheesy mustache for a little while. It didn't work for me. As soon as I retired, grew out the beard when I got with my wife, and she was like, "Oh, you can never shave that.
Ooh,
Like it's permanent now."
you got mama's approval.
Yeah, it's a have to. Yeah. I cheat. I got to use the hot brush thing to straighten it out. And,
I don't even know what that is.
he's got the flat iron that he uses from his wife to get it done.
It's a men's beard brush that gets hot that you can comb your beard out straight. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Please explain because we know nothing about that.
Have you guys seen the videos of? And I think they're pretty authentic, but it's like the kids. Like the dad's always had a beard, and they pick him up from school, and they've cut it for the first time. It is hysterical.
Yes.
Like the kids will be like, "What did you do?
Right? Yeah.
You look scary now." Like,
I've had friends and their kids cried like when they saw their dad without the beard.
Yeah.
Like, who are you?
What happened to you?
throw it back. It was the funny story about that is Ty. You know, I didn't have a beard for most of my life. And then I put a beard on, and it's like, well, because I'm losing hair, and maybe I can offset it, a Jason Statham type deal, And so I shaved it one time, and Ty's like, "Dad, get the beard back. You need the beard back."
Okay. He didn't like the clean shave.
Yeah, no, you definitely, you are not as cool anymore. So get that beard
He was
back.
just waiting for you to go
becomes-
Jason Statham style, like, in the whole Kung Fu Ninja
The
stuff.
beekeeper, man,
exactly right.
It's like becomes part of your persona. Like you're
It is.
the
Oh,
beard.
It is.
it's a daily activity.
Yeah.
Not for me, but for somebody like you.
It is. I get stopped everywhere I go. Mostly men come up and talk. Dude, your beard. My wife just laughs.
Somebody needs to sponsor this guy. Like somebody
sponsor the
just for
beard.
the beard. Yeah.
Well, man, thanks a lot for coming, man. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it. I got to meet you through Jeff, and I don't know you that well, but I'm really excited to hear your story because it's a story of scars and redemption, everything we're about. And so I do know a little bit that you were on the Oklahoma City Fire Department.
Correct.
You were brand new and getting your feet wet. And then we have the Murrah Federal Building bombing. And I can remember where I don't know if you've got a flashbulb moment.
I do.
There's certain ones. I can remember I was going to Rose State College and was in a class, and all of a sudden we felt something. And I was like, oh, that was weird, And all of a sudden the news pops up, and the class stops, and you see the building and just the sirens and my dad was on 63rd he owned a sandwich shop at the time. He said it shook his back door, and just so tell us, Matt, who you are. A little bit of quick background, and then I would love to get into your story, of being a fireman and then living out almost a statistic that you talk about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So go ahead, man.
Yeah. So I was working in the emergency room in Midwest City, at Midwest City Hospital, and right after high school, worked there for 5 years as an ER tech. Started hearing a lot of the guys in the ambulance service talk about trying out for the fire department. It was a thing all the time. Guys trying out for the fire department. It was never a thought for me. It wasn't like my dream as a kid to become a firefighter. Started listening to those guys, and I thought I'll give it a shot. I actually went and tried Midwest City. I tried Edmond. Didn't make it on those tests. Went to Oklahoma City, and my first test, I made it on. There were over 3,000 people at the Myriad that day that used to be called the Myriad Convention Center downtown, and they hired 120 guys, and I made it in the first class of 60.
It-
I-
I know you'll get this about me. I love to stop and pick and
Oh, yeah.
but every time I hear a God moment, I want to expound on it. You know, like think about that. You went to like I don't know if they're lesser departments or maybe not as sought after.
Not as big.
Couldn't make it or didn't make it for whatever reason, and then it's like no, God, I got something else I need you to go do, and it's going to be the premier department in Oklahoma City. I mean, the statistics on it shouldn't have happened, but
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I would probably call that a disruptor because it's a disruptor of your idea.
oh, a paradigm shift.
And he
almost.
just said, nope, we're going to go over here.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, keep going. I just love those.
So I got on, like I said, there was a class of 60, 1994. There was only one class that year. We started in October and graduated the first week of January.
Again, 3,000 applicants
Over 3,000. Yeah, I think it was like 3,100.
60.
Yeah.
got hired.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was not really a plan that I had, but, God had a plan. So got hired, went to my first rotation, went to Fire Station 16. You do 3 months at 3 different stations in your first year as a recruit. So I was on probation. My very first station at Station 16, we had an event where I was on duty. We get called to a potential school bus crash. We're driving up and down Shields Boulevard looking for this school bus crash, and someone had gotten some bad information from dispatch. There was no crash. We're driving by all of those mobile home sales parks that are over there, and we see some people come out the front door of an office and start waving us down. We pull in. I walk up on the porch just to see what was going on, and a mother and a daughter stepped out of that front door, and their skin was dripping off. They had been doused in gasoline and lit on fire by the mom's boyfriend. Excuse me. Turned out the girl, she was actually our fire department chaplain's niece, and that was like my first oh my gosh, what have I gotten into on the fire department?
I can feel the emotion. I mean, how can you not be emotional about this? But again, you're telling me you're going down Shields, right?
Yep.
Looking for a bus that's not there.
Yeah.
And God says, look over here. Were they saved?
I rode with the mom to the hospital. We called for Metaflight to try to get them transported as quick as we could. Metaflight flew over the top of us because another event had happened and they were on their way there. And so we got them both loaded up in the ambulance. I rode with the mom to Baptist Hospital. She died a few days later from inhalation injuries. The daughter, she lived, had I don't know how many surgeries. Years later, she graduates college and did great.
Had you not been there at that moment in time, what do you think the outcome would have been?
I don't think either one of them would have made it. I mean, the mom did not make it, but I don't know that the daughter would have made it if we wouldn't have found them.
I mean, that's incredible. That's your introduction into fire rescue.
That was 2 months before the bombing happened. That was the start.
What did you have after that in terms of what do they call it, AAR and like what did you have to come down off of
Debrief.
that? Debrief. Okay, thank you.
At that time, I worked with a bunch of old school guys, and basically everybody went back to the fire station and they were like, okay, we're going to have to write some letters about this. We all need to kind of talk about this. And we just kind of had a brief round table, and we had a critical incident debrief team, but it was very extreme circumstances where you would ever call them that qualified. Everybody kind of went around the table and said, I'm good. And so they never called them. So we swallowed it and went home.
Yeah. What year was that? 94?
That was beginning of 95, spring of 95. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can definitely attest because I started in 97. So just pretty soon after you did. And I can tell you that's exactly what the temperament was. It was deal with the issue, deal with whatever you saw. There was no, at least in the police department, there was no like collective round table.
Yeah.
But you had to go home and deal with it on your own.
What an oxymoron.
Yeah.
Hey, pal, deal with it.
Yep.
Just deal with it.
Yep.
I don't know how to deal with it. I've never seen someone's skin melt off before. So, having a little bit difficult time dealing with this. Dang, I know we're doing better. So I feel like but it's things like this, awareness that push and make us better to become more acknowledging this, you know.
It changed almost immediately during the bombing. You know, and we'll talk about the bombing, but every day at the end of your day, you had to go through a debrief before you went back to the station. Every day that you were at the bombing, I feel like that helped a lot. And then there was kind of some, I don't know, group debriefings after the bombing where stations and districts all got together and everybody kind of talked about it. It was still pretty early on in the debrief process for the fire department, and you know, a lot of guys still held back, still just swallowed it.
I'm going to take this from a little bit different standpoint. It just kind of hit me with. I've got two awesome individuals, one from law enforcement, one from fire rescue. I'm going to start with you.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the Murrah Federal Building. I've got a tinfoil hat. You can talk about tinfoil stuff now since you're on the other side. What happened? Was that Tim McVeigh? Was that something else? What happened?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Matt. And
Okay.
he's nodding of head.
Something else.
I still don't. I can't, in my wild mind's eye, think that number one, that's never been recreated in anything. Any documentary I've ever watched, they cannot recreate what happened on that day with a mock building. In other words, let's construct a building. Let's see if we can make it happen again. They've tripled, quadrupled the amount of fertilizer and ammonia and all the kind of things, and they still can't make it happen. So something weird beat physics that day, I guess.
There were pieces of what they said was used that were there, but I don't know if it was. I don't think it was what they said. I mean, we had the FBI there giving us classes on what det cord looked like and how to find fuses and detonators, and if you find this, notify us.
Really?
Yeah.
Which would indicate what?
Just pieces of the bomb.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Take us to that day.
So my story is a little bit different than a lot of guys because a lot of people just immediately went to the station and grabbed their gear and went to the bombing site. I had just got off from the station. I was at Station 17.
So
at the
you'd done a
time,
24-hour shift, or
and I was smoked. 17's was a busy house. We had ran multiple calls that night. I went home and went to bed, and I woke up probably by 9:15 to all the news coverage on TV. For whatever reason, administration did not have my correct phone number.
that's interesting.
The only time in my career where there was a general call, they called every
You're about
single
7
person
minutes
in.
after the explosion.
Yeah.
You're awoke.
Yeah.
Or woken.
So I didn't hear the blast, didn't feel it. I lived in Moore at the time. I didn't know what was going on.
And no one's contacting you.
And
Because
nobody-
it was all hands on deck.
Nobody called me. I was still working in the emergency room part-time, and I went to work in the ER that day. It was my day off from the fire department. I went to work in the ER. They were like, "Aren't you supposed to go down there?" I said, "Nobody's called me." And then my guys got a hold of me later, and then I was there the next day. So yeah, it one of the most surreal things that I had ever seen. It was kind of a rainy night. Whenever I first got down there, they were assigning us in 12-hour shifts. We went down at I can't remember, 6 or 7 that night to do the night shift, basically. Got down there, and as you're walking up, it just looked like a movie set to see that building in the rain, all the people around. I mean, we had to go through, the FBI had to issue IDs to everyone just to get in to the building. And then you were given the different assignments every time you were there.
I don't have anything like this. The only thing I can compare it to in my mind is the 1998 May 3rd tornado that came through, the largest
99,
tornado. And I remember like my neighborhood got wiped out. My childhood house was literally scraped off. Well, no, it actually was somewhat intact, but everything else was scraped. And I can remember going through National Guard. You know, actually, I think we got there before the National Guard was set up, and we were able to go. And I couldn't find the house. Like I couldn't. Like all the landmarks were gone. There was this eerie smell, like I've never smelled before. It was like being in a dream state.
Yeah, and the thing is, because I was there.
You were there. Okay.
I was there 30 minutes after it hit.
Oh wow, you were there way before I was.
Kind of go off of what Matt's saying. You know, when you show up, I remember the May 3rd when we showed up. We were driving down I-35, and we missed the command post exit because it was so dark.
Yes.
We had to go all the way down to Indian Hills because we missed the exit because there was no lights. It was complete darkness, and our headlights didn't pick it up. So we had to turn around and remember the church that was off the side, their big red church. I still drive by it every time on I-35. That was the command post, the parking lot.
Is that 104th?
No, it's south.
27th or something?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what the name of the church. But anyway, it's just complete darkness. And I'm imagining Matt showing up to this because I was at UCO at the time. And so I'm watching it from the TV, you know. Yeah. And but I can only imagine Matt just showing up. What was the environment like? The movie said, I get that, but was it, you had a lot of people?
The first day I was there, which was actually the second day of the event, the incident. I mean, it was still pretty chaotic.
Yeah.
Still pretty chaotic. You know, we had established command center. The fire department had the overall command of the incident. And so you walk up, and I was on my second rotation. I'm literally 4 months on the streets into the job. So I didn't know what I didn't know at that time. So I just followed my officers, and I made sure that I stuck close to their side and just tried to understand whatever our assignment was. The first night we were there, I don't know if you've ever talked to people about the bombing, but there was an area in the front of the building that we had nicknames for different places in that building, and it was named the Pit.
Never heard this.
The Pit was where it had basically made a crater from the bomb, and we actually went around to the back of the building on what would have been, I guess, the second floor, and our assignment was to go down into the pit and dig for people. You go down, and so we formed a chain gang and just had buckets, and so you're just hauling buckets of rocks out of the pit, trying to find people. As we walked in on the second floor, and we're standing at the top of the pit looking down into it, and my first image as I'm looking around that room, there's a leg sticking out over there. There's the top of somebody's head. There's an arm sticking out over there. There's it was really, you didn't absorb what you were seeing. Like, you just kind of had to keep moving, but it was very surreal to just see pieces of bodies sticking out from rocks. And I was the new guy, so they were like, "You're at the bottom." So I started heading down to the bottom of the pit, and I was with
How many feet do you think? Like, just do you remember?
probably 20 feet.
That's
I mean, it was kind of
significant.
a little bit of a
Yes.
steep climb to go from where we were down to the bottom of that pit. There were probably 10
was it a
guys.
structure that was a basement, or was this a brand, like you're seeing dirt as you go down?
No, it was all rock. It was all part of
Maybe a basement of the
first
building.
floor, and maybe went to the basement
Gotcha.
where it stopped.
Uh-huh.
But yeah. So one of the guys that was with me was an older guy, and he goes, "Hey, new boy, you don't find anybody, I don't find anybody." Because we wanted to find people alive, but nobody wanted to just dig bodies out.
Mm.
Unfortunately, that was really what we spent 2 weeks doing, just digging bodies out. So we hauled a lot of rocks, moved a lot of pieces. And at first, you were just finding people and just trying to get them. after days and days, it became much more organized, and you would actually notify someone that you had found someone. You'd notify the other teams that you had found someone. They would kind of bring in hazmat guys and try to keep that area as clean as possible and actually bag them up. They had actually formed, I talked about the Myriad earlier, in the basement. They kind of formed a morgue, and they had guys that were on golf carts just basically driving body parts over and laying them out on tables
To try to find out,
to try to
reassemble.
identify them.
Did they chill it down there? Did they try to slow the
I
decomposition?
never went there, so I'm not sure.
Wow.
I was always at the scene. I never. One of my later officers was in there, and he talked about being part of like laying out those parts.
Logistically, how you talk about that? You were there for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So for 2 weeks, what was your kind of your tempo? Was it 12 on, 12 off, 12 on, 12 off?
For the most part, you would come in to the station. I was at Station 17, which is Northwest 50th and May. We would have guys from either War Acres or Nichols Hills bring their rigs over and station at Station 17 to run calls. And whenever they go out there, we would go down to our assignment. And you were either morning or night. If you were night, when you came in, your officer would say, go to bed. You're going to be up all night digging.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the
But-
sleep rest cycle. You know what I mean?
It was very sporadic because some days you were doing day shift down there, some days you were doing night shift. You weren't sure what your assignment was going to be that day. I had some days where I went down there and we got assigned to be decon. So as guys are in digging through the rocks, digging through people, they would come out and have to go through a couple of decontamination tents, and we would like hose them down and scrub them off and try to get them cleaned up. As you went in every day, you weren't wearing your regular bunker gear. They had, we called it a Walmart. You would go into this place where all of these, there was so much stuff donated. And you would go in and find knee pads or helmet or gloves or whatever and get yourself geared up. And then you would, get like a can of menthol and shove it up your nose and in your mask because you started smelling those bodies after that first week. And it got pretty rough.
Tell us your 2 weeks on. What was it like afterward? After sort of it's been handed off to other folks, you've already done all the rescue you can do.
So we didn't really hand it off until the companies came in to demo the building, and they were just going to take it down.
So how many months was that then?
So that was
a good while.
That was within a few weeks. I mean, we were there. Kind of our operation of digging was like the part I was involved in was about 2 weeks, and then it was within a week or two after that they were taking it down. They felt like we found everyone that could be found, found every piece that we could find, and then they just blew it up. So yeah, it was that was like one of the that was the most intense thing I ever did on that big of a scale. I mean, I had 20 years of horrific calls after that, 24 years, but on that type of a scale,
intensity,
to have that many, people that had died in one place.
Chad, if you don't mind, we go through our career, and I'm taking it from a law enforcement side. So I responded to the 99, responded to the 2013 tornadoes and more. So those big collective events, how did that prep you, that event so early in your career, how did that prep you for the rest of your career? Or how did it did it? Or
I don't know if it did because there was just nothing else like it. The fire department was so different then. We weren't ALS yet. We didn't have paramedics. We were still making a pretty good number of fires at the time. So everything besides that was just very different from that type of a rescue operation. If anything, it numbed you a little bit to everything else you were going to see after that.
And that's where I was trying to get at, was you go to these big events, Chad, these big catastrophe events, and then you start coming to the smaller events, and there's a little bit, and I hate to say this, but there's a little bit of like, well, I just came from. You know what I mean? And so you want to be able to mentally care for that incident, but at the same time, you're battling I was at this that was much more catastrophic, so I can handle this. And then when somebody, and I don't know if this ever happened to you, but if anybody tried to question anything that you did, you're like, hey, listen, I was over here, did this, and now you're going to question this small little thing. And I'm not trying to steer it off, but I just know that there's some things like that happen to us when we're in our first responder career where things like that do happen.
I don't know that it happened to me. I mean, when you're a new boy,
yeah,
you either learn to take everything with a grain of salt, or you're not going to make it very long.
Right.
And I was one of those guys. Like for the most part, I would kind of, try to just brush stuff off.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that was what I started out with the bombing. I just brushed it off. Okay, next call.
Do you mean brush it off, like mentally put it in the back of your brain?
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna deal with it.
I'm just gonna tuck this away. And it was at the end of the bombing. There was a university from Texas, not Texas University, but a smaller school, came up and said, "Hey, we're doing a study on all of you guys, and we would love to talk to you. We'll pay you $50 if you'll come talk to us." I was like, $50? Okay, I'm in. Sure. Thought nothing of it. Went and spoke with them, and it was like another form of a debrief. Just talking to somebody.
But you weren't
about
offended
it.
by this.
I wasn't offended by it. I was happy to speak with them. They ended up calling me 20-something years later and wanted to do a follow-up talk, which was actually, we can get to that later, but that kind of led to me retiring from the fire department.
Well, that was 24 years later.
The second time I talked to him.
Okay, let's take a quick break because I want to pick that up on the second half, and you've got an amazing story beyond that's pretty incredible. So let's pick back up on the next side. All right, welcome back to the second part of the Scars podcast. Our buddy Jeff had to run. He's on call project, man. So phone rang. Somebody needs some help. He's going to go help them, right? So we appreciate him being here, but no, he's got some other bigger, better things he's got to get done helping out. So we stopped in the last section. You were talking about somebody that randomly reached out to you, was doing some research on those first responders that were at the Murrah building bombing. And so I want you to tell a little bit more about that.
So I don't remember specifics of the first interview that I did with them after the bombing. I mean, that time, other than what I did at the bombing and the bombing itself, everything else is kind of a blur during that time. I became a paramedic a couple of years later and ran, thousands of calls as a paramedic and firefighter. And I was always at busy fire stations, Station 17, Station 14, made a lot of fires, a lot of medical calls, a lot of car wrecks. Like,
were you special? Like you went back to get your IMSA, right? Or your EMT?
So I had my EMT when I got hired on the job. I was actually in paramedic school. I had about a month left. I was getting ready to take the National Registry, and the fire department called and offered me a position. And I was like, I'm out of here. And
but then you went back after a few years on the
when
force.
The fire department said, they were like, hey, we're going to become an ALS department. We're going to have paramedics on our fire engines.
Okay.
We're going to start our own class. And it took over a year and a half to get your paramedic license. And the fire department did an accelerated program where you went every single day, Monday through Friday.
That's a master's program. I mean, that's equivalent.
I think now you can get an associate's with a paramedic.
So most master's programs are about 2 years. So that's little postgraduate. You know? So that's about a master's level degree, like basically.
It's intense. I mean, there's a lot to it. You have to know a little bit of everything as a paramedic. And the fire department did an accelerated program that was 6 months every day, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Okay. And so I called up the chief of EMS. I called and got his secretary that morning and said, I heard we're going to have a paramedic program. I have some questions for Chief Davis. She said, I'll have him call you back. Okay, great. 4 o'clock that afternoon, I got a call from Chief Davis. And he said, yeah, what do you want? Hey, Chief, I just had a question about this.
Hello.
Had a question about this paramedic program. He said, yeah, I signed you up this morning. What do you want to know?
It's done. Okay.
Never mind, Chief. I'll be in class. So I got my paramedic license. And then basically we just started assigning fire engines throughout the city. I think originally there were only like 6, and then it grew and grew and grew until they tried to get paramedics on all of the fire engines. Doesn't change any of your normal day-to-day duties. You're still a firefighter first. That's your primary job. So you go on fires, you go on car wrecks, you do all of the things. But when you go on medical calls, like you're the guy in charge until IMSA gets there and you pass it to their paramedic. So yeah, those 2 stations that I was at for basically about 20 years of my career, I had, a few stations those first few years. And then after I got my paramedic license, I stuck it between 2 different houses. And they were busy. And yeah, I was talking about how we kind of did some math, and throughout all of those years as a paramedic, probably pronounced, like in cardiac arrest situations, probably pronounced around 300 people dead. So that stuff starts stacking up, and you don't think about it. That's a lot of death,
Matt. Yeah, that's a lot of death.
You don't think about it. So kind of getting toward the end of my career, that university called me back and said, hey, we want to talk to you again. We're doing a follow-up on the study that we did.
Back up, though. What was the questions they were asking you? Can you remember any from the first?
They wanted to know basically like, okay, what did you do? What did you see? What did you do? What did you think about when you left? Just kind of basic,
similar to what we're asking today.
Kind of like what we're doing today, but
a lot of open-end type stuff.
Yeah, like more like a counseling session almost. And so when they called me back, it was kind of funny because it's 20 whatever years later, and they said, hey, we want to talk to you again. We're doing a follow-up study. We'll pay you $50. I was like, man, it hadn't gone up from $50 after 20 years.
What about inflation, man?
Wow.
Come on.
Okay. I said, sure, I'll talk to you. Didn't think anything about it. I had just got 23 years on the job, I think, when that happened. I went back and talked to him. And after I left that second interview, that second, whatever you want to call it, for that study, it was like somebody ripped a Band-Aid off of everything that I had done at the bombing and every death and horrible thing I had seen since then. Started flooding out of me to the point where things started bothering me. I was always the guy, if there's cars flipped over on the highway and there's bodies laying everywhere, I'm in my wheelhouse. This is where I want to be. I want to be in charge of this scene as the paramedic. I wanted to run all the traumas. I wanted to do all of that stuff. And all of a sudden, I'm standing on a call one night, and it was a basic just rear-end car accident, nothing big. Nobody was terribly hurt. But I looked at the back end of that car, and it was the same make and model of a car that I had ran years earlier, where a 16-year-old boy was in the back seat, got rear-ended, and it broke his neck and killed him. Oh, man. I felt this heat go up the back of my neck. I started shaking. I broke out in a sweat. I didn't know what was going on. And I was driving the fire engine. And I was driving a friend of mine, and we got in the rig to go back to the station after that call, and I started telling him what was going on. He goes, dude, you're having a panic attack. Like, right now. I had never had one. I had ran on 100 of them, but I had never had one.
Then your heart rate was probably 180 beats a minute just sitting there.
Yeah. Trying to drive us back to the fire station with this feeling. So I decided maybe I really need to talk to somebody about this. And so I called up the pastor of the fire department, the same one who I ran that call on his niece. He got me in with a counselor in Norman, guy who was a former police officer who was who kind of specialized in that type of counseling. And he said, "Hey, I want to give you a test. I think it was called the DAP test or something for PTSD." Took the test, didn't think much of it. He called me back a few days later and he said, "Man, I don't know how to tell you this. You have extreme PTSD." I was pretty floored. But all of that stuff started coming out. And it was really starting to eat me up.
What's interesting about what you said there is I think we adapt and acclimate ourselves. It's like, you know, old tires on your car. Oh, it's driving fine. Like, no, they're pretty bad. Like, you know, no, they're fine. And then you put some new on there. It's like, it's quieter. They handle better. I don't worry about going through what. I feel like we kind of do that to ourselves a little bit.
100%.
We don't realize how beat up our tires are.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, during my career, I had some pretty severe injuries. I had a really bad hoarder house fire where I ripped my knee apart and tore my elbow and had to have a couple of surgeries, and I was off for a good period of time. Had a lot of ceilings drop on my head, and I've got some bad discs. You get pretty beat up physically. You don't think about all of the emotions that you have choked down over the years and just swallowed. You know, after I started talking to him and was diagnosed with that, like I said, it just started flooding out. Like the Christmas Eve fire where there's 4 children and an adult laid out all next to each other in a parking lot, and we're doing CPR on 5 people all at the same time. And none of them made it. And all of that stuff starts coming out.
Where's your faith at this point?
You know, I was saved probably when I was somewhere around 14 years old. But I was kind of back and forth, didn't really stay in church as I got a little bit older. Actually started kind of a side thing. I ended up going to First Southern Baptist for a little while. Right after the time I got my paramedic license, and I was like singing in choir one day, and a big commotion happened on the side in the church, and I walked out of the choir and asked if they needed help, and a guy had gone into cardiac arrest. We started CPR on that guy in the pew. Took well over 30 minutes to get an ambulance there. The first one was delayed by a train. Had to call a second unit, finally get them there. The church never stopped singing and praying.
Wow.
The whole time. We carried that guy up to the top of the stairs and got him on the gurney, and he woke up and like tried to pull the tube out
I'm fine.
and was given his testimony the next Sunday.
Oh my goodness.
It was incredible. So like I feel like I saw a man raised from the dead. Like it was incredible. So I was really felt like I was walking with the Lord at that time. And then my marriage started getting rough, and it was probably stuff from the fire department that I was swallowing down, and we just weren't going to God with it like we should have been at the time. Ended up getting divorced. Kind of had some rough years, but then I get to the end of my fire department career and leave and go talk to as I started talking to the counselor, and he diagnosed me with PTSD and said, "This is severe, man. I have to turn your letter in to the department." I didn't know what that meant. I said, "Okay, give him my letter." Within a couple of hours, I got a call from the fire department, and they said, "Hey, man, we got your letter with what the counselor said and your PTSD that you have. You're done. You cannot go back to the rigs."
Period.
My career was over that day. So
That had to be crushing, number one.
like right at 24 years, I already had it in
Did
the
you
back
feel
of my
betrayed?
mind. No, I didn't.
Did you feel relieved?
I think I felt relieved. I was like, man, you know what? It's probably time because the plan was to leave at 25 years. That's the firefighter thing. You do your 20 and then you do the plan B thing for an extra 5 years and leave at 25. And I was right at 24 and it was over.
They weren't going to let you have another year of desk work, nothing. Or did you care?
I didn't want to go to a desk job. I was a put me on the back, I am fighting fire
Yeah, front lines
guy. And there wasn't another option for me. It was like, I'm either doing this or I'm leaving.
So I'm going to ask you, you saw a lot of death. And with death, I think there's always the spiritual realm that's fighting for us, more real than what we live in, actually.
Yeah.
Were you ever attacked at night? Did you ever feel a darkness walking with you, carrying around with you, trying to get you?
Not that I knew about, but I was told by my wife many times, you are fighting something in your sleep all the time. I didn't know it, but I was fighting something. And so, yeah, all that stuff I think just weighs on you and starts to have an effect in who you are and how you act and how you treat people.
It changes you physically.
Yeah.
Like you can see it. You can see people, like I've said on the show many times, but you can see people, especially in artists, you can see the artists, whatever happens to them and they start to, maybe they're not doing so well, like they're doing okay. And then all of a sudden you start to see their success rise.
Yeah.
It's like there's some kind of agreement that happens there. And then you see them change their music. You see them change the look, the affect, the way they conduct themselves.
Yes.
And then you start to see the physical change in their face.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you don't think demonic is out there, you're just sorely mistaken.
You're not paying attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You are ripe for the picking you
Yeah.
off.
So, yeah, I during that time, that last year on the fire department, I had, like most firefighters, I always had day off jobs and did a lot of other things. I had gone to become certified as a personal trainer. I got certified in strength and conditioning and started a gym. And so when they told me I was done, I was kind of okay with it. I was like, I got my gym.
You already had the next chapter. Did you even, where did that even come from?
I had always kind of worked out off and on, through my whole career. And towards the end of my career, I was working out a lot and fitness just became really important to me.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I want to do this for other people. And I became a part of this amazing program, this Training for Warriors that had affiliates all over the world. I had the only affiliate in Oklahoma.
So this was something that was already started and you attached to it to put a chapter in Oklahoma City?
I bought a franchise.
Okay.
And started a chapter. And I started it in my garage, started training people and did that for about a year. And then whenever I was leaving the fire department, I actually went and got a 5,000 square foot building in Del City and opened a full-on gym and was doing strength and conditioning training for groups.
So the business was thriving.
Business was doing really well.
I probably know what happened. 2020 happened.
2020 happened. The business did well for 7 years.
Gosh.
And here comes 2020. And it was over almost overnight. And it was a combination of things. I had a bad partner at the time, and it just...
Well, people think gyms are like super profitable. They probably run fairly thin margins, and a little disruption of cash flow can really hurt.
Yeah. There was just no way I was going to continue paying rent if people weren't able to come.
Right.
Because they weren't going to pay. So it was over. So I had to figure something else out. I went and started. At first I thought maybe I'll just be retired. If you read your Bible, it doesn't say that word in there anywhere.
Thank you for saying that.
Nowhere in your Bible will you find where it says, and now you shall retire. It's not there.
It's not. What? I don't know if it's a Proverbs, but it does say the idle mind is the devil's playground.
Amen.
I'm not sure if that's biblical. I actually need to look that up. But
So I ended up getting remarried to like my kind of high school, junior high sweetheart that we've been best friends my entire life and found each other later in life and got married. And she was like, no, you're going to do something. And so I was like, maybe I'll just work from home. And so I found a gig where I was like selling same day delivery service in Canada.
Okay. Interesting.
It was a really weird thing. But it kind of, through what I learned at the gym, some of the people that I worked with, some of the training programs that I was involved with, I became pretty good at sales, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's what I was about to tell you. Like, you had an entrepreneurial mind. I mean, you were already moving on to the next thing. Hey, okay, well that door's closed, but let's open another door. I'm having fun.
I had started other businesses while I was on the fire department. I think my first one I ever had was I started out having vending machines. Like, I did some gumball machines and little things, and I moved from that to automated defibrillators. I sold when the law was changed in Oklahoma to allow businesses to keep an AED in the business and let civilians use a defibrillator. I sold those for Philips Electronics and had a business doing that with a partner for about 5 years until Philips kind of got rid of their non-stocking distributors and we were just eliminated. So I kept thinking I wanted to do something that I kind of controlled and was mine.
Right.
So I kept starting new stuff, and then the gym really stuck. And that was where I felt like I got really good at sales, had some really good training, really good mentors, and did the delivery thing for a little while. I've worked for a couple of other companies from home. I'm with Bitcoin.com now, and mainly it's primarily the site I'm on is for the media news site and sell, spots for people to do press releases or banner ads or whatever they want to put on there.
Well, I think there's a story I want you to talk about, obviously, but the more I listen to this, leading up to this, it's like God keeps putting you in a situation where you reach a lot of people or a fair amount of people, because God says, "I want to build you up and send you out as disciples." That's what our role is here is to speak His name. So I think arguably you can say you died.
So. And that was kind of where I was leading with my current wife, and doing the things from home. I was just home all the time. I was going every year and having blood work done and, just getting normal checkups from my doctor. And I had gone, it's been 3 years ago now, I went and he said, "Hey man, your labs are pretty off. You have something going on with your thyroid. In fact, I think you have Graves' disease. And you need to go see an endocrinologist."
I don't know what Graves' disease is.
It's when you have hyperthyroidism. All of your thyroid levels are super high.
You can't gain weight. Are you losing weight?
I got very thin. I was hot all the time, like the opposite of what you hear people that have low thyroid, where they're cold and gaining weight. I was super skinny, couldn't eat enough. I was burning up all the time, having trouble sleeping, just really crazy stuff that I had never had. According to my doctors, that was probably something that was caused from chemicals and maybe foam and stuff that I was exposed to on the fire department.
Sure.
Because I had never had a health issue like that in my life. Fast forward about 6 months after that diagnosis, I started having symptoms and other things going on that were related to my thyroid, and the medication was just up and down trying to get it dialed in. There was a point where I guess the medication, I wasn't having my labs drawn enough, and the medication basically shut my thyroid off. And I started having this problem where it was sucking the potassium out of my muscles. And I started having something called hypokalemic periodic paralysis, where different parts of my body would become extremely painful to stand up and walk or lift my arms or whatever, and I would be paralyzed. I had a night where I was paralyzed from the neck down and had to go spend the night in the hospital and have IV potassium given to me because it was at a critical level.
Did they bring a gurney in? Did you have
I had an ambulance come pick me up at the house. My wife did. She was like, "Yeah, I can't carry you." And so that was like the first signs of something is really wrong here.
Yeah.
And about 2 months after that, and this is according to my wife, because I was dead asleep. We went to bed one night. Everything was normal. I wasn't having any of those issues. She said I kind of flailed around in bed a little bit, which I had been doing. But then I sat up on the side of the bed, tried to stand, and I collapsed into the blinds and the window and the desk chair, and I hit the ground face down.
Oh, my gosh.
My wife's a nurse. She flipped me over. And my eyes were fixed open and I was in full arrest. She started doing CPR. And I don't know how long went by. 911 was called. She's trying to do CPR and argue with the 911 operator at the same time. Eventually, Norman PD shows up to my house and some police officers took over for her doing CPR. Finally got fire department ambulance there. They came after. One of the guys, the paramedic that was in charge of that call, is a guy that I used to run calls with, and he recognized me. There's an algorithm you go through as a paramedic. I talked about pronouncing people dead. When you get to the end of your algorithm, you've used all your toys. You've ran out of drugs. Nothing has changed. If there's no rhythm, that's where you go next. You pronounce them dead, or you call a doctor and say, is there anything else you want me to try? And they were at the end of the algorithm. And he was really close to pronouncing me. And he said, no, we're going to go one more round. And so they gave me another dose. And they got some kind of rhythm. Like after this was well past, 30, 40 minutes.
Wait a minute. 30, 40 minutes to the with no active heart.
Right.
Like
not breathing.
They're manipulating
no heart rate.
everything.
It's
They're
only
bag. They got a
mechanical.
bag. They're working. You're trying to perfuse whatever they can manually
Technically dead.
for 40 minutes.
Yeah, I actually had some numbers at like out of hospital cardiac arrest, which is what that is when it happens in your house. Approximately 10% survival.
10% survival, but how much actually have fully functioning brains after?
10 to 20% have zero deficits. So I'm in arrest. He gets some kind of rhythm back. At the time, there were 2 hospitals in Norman, the old Norman Regional and the Healthplex.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, my wife knew from being a nurse there that if he said they were taking me to Norman Regional, it was to pronounce me dead. When they got to the end of the driveway, he said, hey, we're going to the Healthplex. So she knew there was a chance. Got to the Healthplex. They got me stabilized. They told my wife, we're just waiting for an ICU bed. She goes, okay, great. I'm going to go home and grab some clothes. As she's walking in the door of the house, her phone starts ringing, and they said, Mrs. Carter, you need to come back. His condition changed. You need to come back now. I arrested again. So they worked me for another 30 minutes. So I died twice in one night. 4 days later, after they had taken me off the ventilator and I had stabilized, I woke up in ICU and looked over at my wife and said, hey, babe. And she just started bawling. She goes, you died on me.
Did you not know any of this?
I was like, what do you mean I died? We just went to bed last night. She goes, last night? That was 4 days ago. No clue. No clue. Unfortunately, I didn't see anything during that time. I didn't get to meet Jesus or have any crazy revelation.
No angels,
Like I had just gone to sleep. Like I don't dream a lot. And it was like I had just gone to sleep and woke
Were you
up.
groggy? Were you rested?
I felt rested. Yeah, it was really weird. I just felt rested. Like I just woke up from a really good nap.
Did they call that a coma you were in? Or
I mean,
I don't understand.
I don't
You
know
were
if
you
they-
were not cognizant for
No,
4
days. 3 of those days I was on a ventilator.
So tube out, non-responsive.
Tubes removed. I'm breathing on my own now, and I just woke up.
That's a miracle.
So I woke up, and after she stopped crying, one of the first things I did is I said, I need my Bible. She goes, okay. she got my Bible and she brought it to me. And I had already bookmarked a spot that I was reading before this happened. I had gotten much closer to the Lord before this. I was back in church. Things were going really well, except for these health issues I was having. And I flip it open, and I get to 2 Corinthians 12:9. And the very first thing I read, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Still overwhelmed by it. And I was like, wow. Like, I think I'm supposed to do something else. So, yeah, the doc comes in and says, look, you had something that I have only seen in medical books. You had, I think you have something called Brugada syndrome. It's like a 1 in a million thing. I actually had to call another cardiologist who specializes in these type of electrical disorders, and we both agree we can't treat you. You need to go to the Mayo Clinic. Like, how do I have Brugada? I've never had anything like this.
Can you articulate what that is today?
So Brugada is it's a type of a lethal heart rhythm that you can go into, and basically what Brugada does is it kills people in their sleep. That you go into this rhythm and just it stops. And whatever caused it that night, basically I was talking about the potassium thing. It had sucked all of the potassium out of my heart instead of just my muscles. Sucked it out of my heart muscle. Led me to go into cardiac arrest and have a Brugada pattern that they were seeing on an EKG in the tracing. So, okay, I'm going to Minnesota.
What's the survival rate? What's the typical survival rate?
I don't even know on Brugada what the survival rate is, but it's not good. Like I said, it's such a rare thing.
So there's people that listen to podcasts that believe, I'm sure there's, don't believe. They think the Bible's made up. They think it's just a bunch of, we're random. We're a bunch of goo that was started. And, here we are today.
Yeah.
Clearly, you and I don't believe that. There was a day that I did when I was an atheist. I really did. I was ignorant, But let's take this back a little bit. So this is your high school sweetheart.
Yep.
That became a nurse. That unfortunately your marriage before didn't work. I'm assuming they weren't a nurse.
Actually, she was a pediatric nurse, but yes.
So I don't think there's any coincidences that you were in bed with a nurse that night.
Providence.
It's providential that you have a call on your life. That's a heavy weight. What does it feel like?
Yeah. When I think about that, so kind of on a side note, I recently, this year, there's a platform called Skool, Skool, where you can have a community and you can charge people and teach them things or whatever. I have one that's free, and it's called Act Like Men, and it's based on the verse from the Bible where we're called, 1 Corinthians 16, 13, and 14, be watchful, stand firm in the faith, act like men, be strong, let all that you do be done in love. Don't know why, felt God calling me to tell other men, like, we need to be men, like this toxic masculinity thing that's happened these last few years, like, we need men to stand up. And so going back to your question, feeling that kind of a call and thinking about him being, I just wrote a post about it in my group is what brought this up, about him being your father. Like, do you call him father? And that The fact that he saved me from physical death. I saw a man years ago in church raised from the dead, and now he raised me. It's overwhelming. That kind of love. Yeah, it's overwhelming.
What do you think a man is?
Well, I think I have a different definition now than I did when I got on the fire department. You know, I follow a lot of great pastors online. I listen to tons of podcasts, and a men's conference this summer was about this, about act like men. And I think now, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with your stuff, your big truck, your tattoos, your whatever, your big muscles. You know, for a long time, I was really into fitness and had the gym, and I thought, you know, I finally hit 400 pounds in the deadlift. Like, yeah, I'm a man. It starts with bending your knee to Jesus. And then doing what he has called us to do. Get married, have kids, provide, protect. Be that man who leads them and loves them. And our society has failed and has been failing in that for a while. There's a lot of young people that are waiting longer and longer to get married, not having kids, not fulfilling that call in our lives. I think that's what we're supposed to do to be men. Is build families, be fruitful and multiply. And then with everything in you, make sure that you're that Christ-like example for them.
How do you become Christ-like?
By doing what he told us to do. And it starts with love.
You think love's an action or a noun?
Oh, it's an action. It's an action. We have that, you know, everybody has that feeling. Doesn't have anything to do with your feeling. What do you do to provide for them? How do you protect them? How do you put Jesus in front of them? You have to act it out.
There's a great saying. It's like, use scripture only when necessary. Which is funny because it's like, you should be acting like Christ. And people say, for some reason, Matt has more salt. In a positive way, but also in a fearful way.
Definitely. Yeah.
God,
definitely.
am I disappointing you? God, am I fearful of you? Give me the wisdom.
I think that's the great thing is when you look at him and you see that he is your father. Like I just looked this up the other day. Jesus used the word father more than any other word in the New Testament. 165 times. Take out A and the and all the other stuff. 165 times. He says, Father. He's sweating blood on his face about to go to the cross, and he says, Father.
That's 4 books.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe you can say 5.
Yeah. But yeah. And he said, and I forget, I heard a pastor say this the other day, that it like almost a third of the times were in like that last day before he went to the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Father.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, he's not disappointed in us. He loves us. And the whole point of Jesus was to get us back to him, our Father.
You know, as earthly fathers, you know, if you don't know the Heavenly Father, likely you're going to miserably fail. Not miserably fail. I'm not saying that if you don't know our Abba, our Yahweh, our Yeshua,
yes,
you could get by. But you're not going to be the best example of being Christ-like. And because as a father, you're going to be challenged by sons. That's part of it. They're becoming men. If you're creating men in the image of God, they're going to fight you. It's part of it.
Yeah.
How do you respond
100%.
to that? And then if in other words, do you respond like our Heavenly Father responds to us? Because trust me, He could whip our butts any day.
Oh yeah.
Now, our sons, they'll get to a point where we got to fight dirty.
Yeah.
If we're going to, they buck the, like, they're getting 22, 25, 26, been training MMA, all these kind of things.
Yep.
They'll Toby Keith, we might be good once, but not as good as we once were, like we better take that shot and it's going to matter. It's going to count or we're going to get our butts whipped.
Yep.
I think if we set back in a moment and we say, how would our Father treat us? We would pull our pride back and respond with the words. And I look at Jesus and I think to myself, how often He just looked at His disciples, Peter, and just used His words.
Yep.
And I remember I can't go there. This happened recently with my son. And praise God, God was with me because I wanted to react in a very different way.
Going back to the guys that I've been listening to, that there was a really good thing that was said in one of I listen to a lot of podcasts, including this one. And it goes back to that love. What do they feel when you walk in the room? Do they feel peace? Or does everybody pucker up a little bit? Are we love? Because God is love. I think that's one of the hardest ones for us as men, is to show love and not, when they bow up at us, bow up right back. Because I went through it with my son. And yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And if you don't have Jesus, man, it's going to be a lot harder, because you might be in a fist fight with your own kid. Like,
I had a situation where I had to go early in the morning to determine what I was going to say. And Jesus reminded me, Chad, do you remember when I told Peter, get behind me? Get behind me, Satan. You don't know what my plans are.
Yep.
And Peter was thinking, you're just a little carpenter. I know these ways that you're about to walk into, and I need you to act a certain way. And Jesus said, get behind me. And He reminded me, son, get behind me. You're acting like Satan right now. And it was humbling, man. I'm talking like I'm having a hard time, but it was.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think about like now, like how goofy this is going to be on a podcast. And it's like, but to me, the toughest guys I know are guys that will tear up like this and could, if they let their flesh take over, they would rip you from limb to limb. Those are the most dangerous people.
Yeah.
It's not those grape throwing, loud biting, loud talking.
No. Going back to what makes a man.
Yep.
And you start with bending your knee. And it goes back to the first miracle when he was at the wedding. What did his mom say?
Mm-hmm.
What did she tell the servants? Do whatever he tells you to do.
That's right.
Man, if we could just do that, our lives would be so much better.
Imagine what you just said. Pause. Don't respond in the moment. Go to your Father. Father, I need you.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
Which is where I am now. I wish I could say I've always been there. He's brought me a long way. It has brought me a long way because I used to be the guy to respond in anger. I used to be the guy to, want to go have a drink to deal with something or whatever it was. But whenever you're able to stop whatever it is and turn it to Him and look for His answer to be your answer, things are going to be a lot easier.
You just made me think of something. Is that not really the biggest strength?
I think so.
How easy would it be to throw a verbal slur or a verbal punch or a physical punch? The strength is to say, no, God, what do you want me to do?
It's really easy to start flailing yourself around and throwing a fit. Well, now you're a toddler. You're having a tantrum. If you're a man and you have that strength that you're talking about, and you respond first to Him and then get your answer and try to respond from there.
Man, thanks for coming on. Thanks for telling your story
Thank you.
of redemption and just how God loved us so much. He knew us before we were born. He knows every hair on our head. My goodness, if He has something like that, He has a will for us here and a reason for us to be here. My goodness, what does He have for us in eternity?
More than we can ask, think, or imagine.
Can't even understand it. Can't even fathom it.
Yeah.
But one day we will.
Yeah.
In an instant, in a blink of an eye, we'll understand.
Yeah.
And I know you're not going to be on the sidelines up there.
I'm excited for that day.
Oh, man, the eternal home. What do you want me to do,
Excited
God?
for that day. Yeah. It's
Back to your point. When you physically meet Him, what do you want me to do, God? It's the first thing going to be out of your mouth. First of all, probably gonna be like, I love you. And the second thing is, where do I go? Where's my job?
Yep. Yep.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.